Kevin Owens, cool wrestler, really like him. Goldberg, however, a legend. So I've been looking on the internet recently, and everyone seems to be really pissed off that Goldberg is the Universal Champion. Now, taking away from the fact that it's just wrestling, and I'm sure that this is probably going to be a transitional championship because I don't see, Goldberg sticking around for a year. Let's just take a look at this. Pro wrestling and most of its elements these days are pretty much story related. Many of you guys already know this, and I don't think I should have to be repeating this, but just because you have the most skill as a wrestler doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the WWE champion. You're not going to be the champion unless the predetermination of the story requires that, or it would be entertaining for you to be the champion. But people are really upset about this, and for a whole bunch of reasons that just don't make sense to me. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for getting angry with some of the booking choices of the WWE. I mean, I've got entire reviews with my mates and podcasts that have us talking about how we're dissatisfied with certain parts of the product, but I think that they got this one right. First and foremost, Kevin Owens is booked as a weak champion. It's true. Like, if you look back through his entire championship history, which I've done, I've made dot-by-dot points for this video, just to help you guys know that these are the seeds that were, have finally come to sprout in the story, and it didn't just come out of nowhere. But let's just take a look at Kevin Owens' wrestling history as the champion. Okay, so how did Kevin Owens become champion again? Let's just take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? It was just after SummerSlam 2016, and Finn Balor had to vacate the title because he was the champion at the time, but due to an injury. So, point number one, Kevin Owens didn't actually win the title off the previous champion. Which, I mean, that's okay if you're a transitional champion, but if you want to be booked as like, yeah, I'm the fighting champion, and I'm the face of the company, and everyone should get behind me, and that, it's not a very good way to start off. How does this get rectified? Well, Mick Foley comes along and he's like, we're going to have a fatal four-way match, and it's going to be to determine who gets the WWE Championship. So sure enough, Seth Rollins, Big Cass, Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens win their matches, and they qualify for this fatal four-way to determine who's the Universal Champion. What happens in that match again? Because I seem to recall Kevin Owens not even winning the belt by himself in that circumstance, because Triple H comes in and helped him win the belt. So already, one, he didn't beat the previous champion. Weak start. And even worse, in the fatal four-way to determine who was the person that was qualifying for this, he cheated. Triple H came in and helped him. I mean, granted, it didn't look like, according to the story-wise, that Kevin Owens wanted Triple H's help, but that's how it happened. And on paper, it's like, yeah, well, Triple H came in, helped him, and that's how he won. So already, very weak champion. But no. Let's go through the pay-per-view title defenses. Let's see what a strong fighting champion. Fighting champion is the key word that they love to use. What a fighting champion Kevin Owens was. At Clash of the Champions, Kevin Owens goes up against Seth Rollins. Now, wouldn't you know, in that match that Chris Jericho comes out and interferes, and because of this, the referee is knocked out, so when Seth goes for the pin, it doesn't count because there's no ref out there. Now, wouldn't you know that the Authority, who despite this interruption with, Chris Jericho, there's no disqualification here, but the Authority, I think it was Stephanie, sends out a referee, and then Kevin Owens is able to pick up the win after he pins Seth Rollins with the help of Chris Jericho. So, I mean, not a clean win. Hell in a Cell, Seth Rollins gets his rematch. And wouldn't you know, Chris Jericho makes his way into the cell, and then Seth has to go against two people. Can't do it, obviously. And Kevin retains by pinning Seth with the help of Chris Jericho. Not a clean win. Not exactly the strongest champion. Now, there was Survivor Series. I'm not going to include that because there wasn't a one-on-one title defense. So, I mean, it's not exactly the same kind of rules for clean win and non-clean win as a champion. But if we look at Survivor Series, and there was Team SmackDown versus Team Raw, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho were on Team Raw, and wouldn't you know, they lost there. So, I mean, Raw losing and having the champion lose, not exactly great, but we're going to ignore that one, because even though it could be used in my favour, it's a whole bunch of different circumstances, and I'm going to let that one slide. So next up we have the pay-per-view Roadblock, End of the Line, and Jesse and I did a review of this on the channel, so if you want to check out what we thought of the whole event, then just check it out here. So anyway, the title defense of the pay-per-view is Kevin Owens defending his title against Roman Reigns, and wouldn't you know it, Roman Reigns actually looks like he might take it. Until Chris Jericho runs out and does a code breaker to Owens, who looked like he was in trouble, causing the match to end in disqualification. Champion's favour, champion retains. Not a clean win. So the Royal Rumble happens, and Kevin Owens has to go up against Roman Reigns as part of Roman's rematch. Not only does Chris Jericho drop brass knuckles down to Kevin during this match, but Braun Strowman comes out and attacks Roman, allowing Kevin Owens to get the pin and then retain his title. I don't think I should have to tell you guys, but for the sake of video, not a clean win. So that's it. That's all of the title defenses that Kevin Owens had right up until Fastlane. And as you can see, not a very strong champion. Won literally all of his matches uncleanly through some form of trickery. And yet, when he goes up against Goldberg, who's been proved to be legitimate, there's all this outcry. It's like, oh, how did this happen? But let's take a look at that match, shall we? So how did the match at Fastlane actually go down? Well, in previous weeks, there was a storyline where Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens were no longer friends, and they turned on one another, or in actuality, Kevin just turned on Chris. So anyway, this match happens. Goldberg comes out, and Kevin's there waiting. Kevin is very hesitant to get in the ring, doesn't really want to get in there. Once he finally makes his way to the ring, and the bell rings, Chris Jericho comes out, causes a distraction. Kevin Owens gets speared, gets jackhammered, and then gets pinned by Goldberg. Now, it may have only been 22 seconds, but let's look at the Goldberg character, shall we? This is a guy who has beaten Brock Lesnar twice. Kevin Owens gets distracted against the one dude that you should not ever make an error against. So he loses. Simple as that. I mean, isn't this what you wanted? I mean, do you remember Ryback? I don't. But I remember the chants. I remember the chants of Goldberg every time Ryback came out. I also remember the fact that when Goldberg was announced to coming back to Raw, everyone was fucking ecstatic. And when he debuted, everyone went crazy. But hey, I get it. Some of the people don't like Goldberg. They prefer their wrestlers to be in groups of 3, running around, talking about cereal and ice cream and doing stupid shit like that. And I get that. But I mean, you all cheered when he came out and cut a promo against Kevin Owens and said that he was going to spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. Which he kept his promise. You all cheered for that at the time. I don't understand. And then we get some of you guys that are like, yeah, but Goldberg's a part-timer. Like Brock Lesnar. Like John Cena. Like The Undertaker. Everyone's fucking cool with The Undertaker, though. Everyone's fine that The Undertaker's been coming out literally every year and was beating anyone, no matter how they were billed, right up until Brock Lesnar. Everyone's cool with that, though. Everyone was cool with The Undertaker getting his rematches against Brock Lesnar, even though they're both part-timers. And that's another thing. Everyone always gives Brock Lesnar shit for being a part-timer. But, I mean, he's been there for like 3 years, as far as I can remember, or even longer since we've ticked over into 2017. Not only that, but, I mean, what actually happened last year at WrestleMania? Because I can remember Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I can remember Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns even at WrestleMania with Seth Rollins cashing in. What the fuck happened at last year's WrestleMania? I don't know. Like, literally, I'm going to look it up right now. What the fuck happened? Let's do this. WrestleMania. What happened? It's got a picture of Triple H and Roman. I don't remember that. Roman Reigns versus Triple H with Stephanie McMahon. I'm looking at this entire thing from last year's WrestleMania. Sorry, this is a bit of a side tangent. I remember Zack Ryder becoming IC champion. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose. I don't remember Charlotte versus Becky Lynch and Sasha. I do remember Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker. And I remember that both of them happened to be part-timers. For the life of me, I'm promising you, this is not part of like a gag or anything. I can't actually remember Roman Reigns versus Triple H. And they're both full-time wrestlers. So you can look at that two ways. You can say that because they're not part-timers, they're not actually special and they don't bring anything unique to WrestleMania. Or, unfortunately for the WWE, you can view it as they haven't actually made anyone of their own talent that's sticking around that's worth fucking remembering. Also, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar as a main event for a pay-per-view, that's a fucking wrestling show. They both look like wrestlers. In fucking Brock Lesnar's case, he's extremely legitimate in the MMA world, and in Goldberg's case, he was like the biggest star of WCW, except for maybe that guy, Sting. I mean, you look at a poster for Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, and it looks like a wrestling poster. They look like wrestlers. But anyway, this was just to let everyone know that maybe you should calm down a little bit. There's a lot of stuff to disagree with about the WWE. This isn't exactly one of those situations. Nothing is crazy, there is no fire in the woodworks here. Everything is just normal. Everything is okay. So go back and enjoy the New Day or whatever the fuck it is you do.